Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
Jonny Sue, spinning on those ones and twos, and we got a great show for you today. But right before we get out for another protest downtown to see what's going on. So let's just jump right to it. If you haven't gone over and signed up for our ROKFIN, ladies and gentlemen, please do. ROKFIN. If you're on our YouTube hanging out, hello today. Even if you're on our Twitter, hello as well. Thank you to the 97 Patreons out there. We love you. Thank you for the support. You really help us get out in the streets and do these things that we need to do. Yesterday, I was in Pasadena. The fan was out by Mayor Garcetti's house and such, so we were covering double protests, and we've been covering these protests. So we really have to make a statement, because when we say what we're talking about in these protests, we're coming from our personal experiences, right? I mean, Jonny can tell you, Fee can tell you, I can tell you. We all know, we all seen the tape of us getting arrested. Not us, these guys getting arrested. But go ahead. So, I mean, listen, but what I'm trying to say is that we're going to talk from what we witnessed, from our journalism getting out in the streets, because there's really been a narrative framed, fam, by a lot of law enforcement, by a lot of establishment, by a lot of elites, by the mainstream media, that they call these things riots and not protest. So captured some stuff that we've captured: the good, the bad, the ugly. Fam, do you have any opinions about these people calling these things riots and who's really causing some of the looting that's going on and taking place?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, you can call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, when we're paying more attention to the quote looting of a lot of Amazon warehouses got looted, Walmart, Target primarily. I'm like, okay, good. I mean, I'm sorry, but these corporations have been looting people for decades now, and they don't even pay their workers enough. It's about time. Now, the looting of small businesses, all of those things that are being done in general, the looting is not primarily being done by people in the Black Lives Matter movement. It's primarily not being done by peaceful protesters. It's being done by just outside people. And even if it was being done by, by certain people that feel like this is a type of protest against what the government has failed to do, that's so be it. I mean, people think that you're going to malign what the problem is. The problem is police brutality. The problem is the inaction of our officials. That's the problem. So when you're talking about, like the mainstream media does, and you're hyper-focused on the looting and the destruction of property, you're literally doing what the problem is. You are perpetuating that system because you're not listening to why these people are protesting. Why are we in this state right now? And there's so many underlying issues that have led us to this moment. So
well, I'll even do you one better, fam, because we've witnessed this too. We've been capturing it on film, that now a lot of the protesters are even stopping looters from looting in those corporate establishments that we hate anyways. You know what I'm saying? And once again, like we talk about, the real looting is going on from the elites looting $5 trillion they looted us for, and now they want to talk about these. And I'll say this once again: no Black Lives Matter organizer or representation has ever, I've seen, and we've been to most of these protests, incite violence, incite looting, and if anything, they've said, don't do that. And we have this on film right now, so let's take a look. We caught this the other day at the protest. I shared this over here. Here it is. Take a look. Just take a look.
Still milling about. Law enforcement is spread out across the city of Hollywood here, moving through the area of Hollywood along with the CHP, and there's more trouble unfolding at this Walgreens. Larry, what's the locator here?
Well, this is Highland. We went to Highland and Melrose. We came up Highland. This is Santa Monica and Highland, and there's a Walgreens store there, and you can see people there trying to stop them. People that were part of this earlier trying to stop them. But look over to the left side of your picture. They just smashed these windows out, and we're getting a little bit of exhaust here. CHP helicopter came over here, and we're trying to guide some of the ground units over here before they got to this intersection. Unfortunately, they didn't make it in time. So you can see that. Look at that, a group of protest or people that were involved in the earlier demonstration there, trying to get people not to go into that Walgreens. So that's a little bit of good news. Unfortunately, we see some of the people that were causing some of that trouble. Hold on one second. We've got you in sight. Come on over.
So there it is. There's the first part, right? You know what I'm saying? This is what, listen, I love to see this. They're actually taking accountability. Some of the protesters are like, you know what, we're going to have to stop this ourselves because we're not going to let you spin this narrative against us that it's us who's doing the looting. So even if it is a Walgreens, well, once again, I see a Walgreens getting broken into, I'm like, fuck them, good. They've been looting fucking people for God knows how long, these corporations. What? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I love to see this. And fam, we even got another one of a target. Johnny was even talking like, man, I wish we were down there on the ground. We would have got this. Somebody's got that footage there. We got it from the helicopter. But let's take a look at this next one. This is a target, fam. And I'd love to hear your opinions about this. I love seeing this stuff. Has millions of views, fam. What do you think?
I have like kind of like a, like, I don't know. It's like bittersweet to me because it's like we're seeing people protect these large corporate stores, and I feel like that is part of, like, for me, the problem is the corporations and the 1% versus the people. And so I think in a way that is a rebellion against that. So I'm kind of like, I don't like to see people protecting these corporations, but in a sense, I understand because they don't want to get blamed for what the majority of the looting is. I hate seeing small businesses and small mom and pop restaurants get looted because those people are not, they're not corporations. But if we don't stop it all, then it just becomes a whole, like, we're going to blame the protesters. We're going to blame the BLM. So I feel kind of torn on that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily love seeing it, but I think it is positive that these people are differentiating between what their cause is so we don't get distracted. However, I think there needs to be a jump onto the bigger issue, which is the economic issues that people are facing. So
yeah, I think a lot of these stores, when they get broken into, you'll see a lot of poor people, homeless people will start going in there too as well. But it's when the whole thing starts, and there's been these isolated groups who've been taking advantage of these protests. And you know what? I think it's great in some ways because once again, I'm not a big fan of the corporations that we were potentially going in against. However, the message is being smeared all on the mainstream media.
Yep.
Along the pro-police people who are thinking these protesters are violence. No, these protesters are taking matters into their own hands, even as much to say, no, we're not going to let this happen on our watch. I think this is great. I really applaud that. Now, the next part of this folder we have going on, fam, over here, I don't know. I'm kind of a little tipsy-turvy about it myself, but I like it. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. The whole kneeling thing, when I see police officers doing it, I don't know if it's genuine. I've seen some times where people are afraid to do it. You can see these police officers, they were conscious when they did it, and a couple of them you'll see will be like, all right, fuck it, I'm getting down. I think it's a start. I would like to think there's a lot of people within the police department that don't like what they see, that don't like these dirty cops, that want to join our side. And just like we saw in Chile, when they turned Johnny, remember the guard? That's what I have hope for over here, that we'll see police officers beating somebody and the other police will turn. So let's take a look. Not 100% sold on this stuff myself. You're probably a little bit more pessimistic than me when it comes to that. But let's take a look. Take a knee, ladies and gentlemen. Here's one of the first ones.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's going to be hard for any human being to shake somebody's hand and hug them and then try to beat them after. It will beat at their conscience. You know what I'm saying? So I know it might change, or it might have an effect. You see one of those police officers down, he shakes a hand and gets a hug. That might help some of the people understand what they're a part of.
Yeah.
The institution, fam, is what we're fighting against, right?
Yeah, that one seems genuine because it had a lot of people kneeling. And I think there are some people that are genuine and feel like this is a way to start doing this. But my whole point is, like, it really, like, we're still arresting people. We're still hurting protesters. We're still, we still haven't really focused on the police brutality. There isn't any change. For me, what I'd like to see from police officers is for them to say, we will not work anymore under the system of oppression until we have a resolution. That's joining the movement for me. That is saying, okay, we're going to actually get viable solutions, not just a pretty picture or a pretty video that makes people feel good for 5 seconds. And then we go back to the same system of oppression that has handicapped us for the longest time. So,
Johnny, with the next one we have right now, I believe is the Oklahoma City one. Here's the Oklahoma City one. So now somebody's filming this from a distance, fam. The reason why I pulled this one up is because there was no like mainstream media there.
mm-hmm.
So we can see, just somebody off to the side. Here he is. He walks forward. He talks. It becomes, what's the word? It affects people. It really
Mm-hmm.
infectious. It builds.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do this stuff. So this is one. There's the camera's not around. There's no mainstream media to do this. This is somebody from the side, just kind of in a small camera. That's why I kind of put this one in for us. And we saw. And then there's another one. Take a Knee Los Angeles was the next one right here. So, we saw this over here as well. It started with one, and then they said, fuck it. Here comes another police officer. And then another. They were like, fuck, let's do it. Even like the guy's filming it, he's like, take a look at this. Like, wow, We got Ashbury Park, New York. Things got really violent the other day, and there's someone in the back.
You took a knee too. Right, take a knee. I got no problem taking something. I ain't got no problem. We all here with the same thing. Tell him to take a knee in the back. Why he's still standing? I want him to take a knee.
You ever seem like there was still some police officers probably who refused to take that knee, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, that everybody has kind of, gone along with it. Probably because of pressure from other police officers or their families or their whole clan. I mean, why are you taking a knee? You know what that's all about. That's disrespecting our flag and our country. So it takes courage for some of these people to do that. But once they start crossing the line, we have a couple more taking knees too as well.
I mean, I just disagree that it takes courage to take a knee. I mean, it's really, we have seen people die at the hands of law enforcement for decades. I think it's the very least people can do as police officers. Again, I think I would say courage is giving up your badge until we make a better solution in the whole system of policing. I think
you're
that's
talking
where
about people giving up their job and their livelihood, how they pay their bills.
But people
that's
people
beyond
are dying.
courageous. I
People
understand,
are dying.
but that's not something that's small. That's something that's big. So I agree. There are a lot of police officers who feel that they're police officers because they're doing good. They haven't done a racist thing in their in their whole lives.
Staying silent is enabling that racism, though. Not speaking out against it is enabling that racism.
Working within the system to try to change it. I know a bunch of Bernie people who try to go with that whole plan, and they were fine of going into the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but they're not over there seeing people kill people, though. I mean, that's a whole other level.
The Democratic Party is responsible for many more deaths and bombing and imperialism than the police force.
Well, the police is, you're comparing apples to oranges. The police force is literally, they have weapons. They're killing people, and I just don't think it's enough to do this stuff.
I hear you. Take a knee, Boston. We have a take a knee, Boston. Let's see how these guys, I think they talk a little bit to the people. What they're doing.
I seen you a couple of times say something, but there was still other people that don't.
Be out here peaceful, y'all.
Are y'all helping her? Hey, are we doing this thing?
So you can see some police officers refuse to do it. Some will say fuck it and do it. We have Take a Knee, Oakland. We got a couple more of these. The word I was looking for was contagious. You're supposed to correct my English. How did you let me?
I think infectious works.
Infectious works?
Infectious works.
Okay.
I'm curious if Black Lives Matter leadership is down with the kneeing.
Let's ask them tonight.
That's what I'm curious about.
So we have to ask them that. We have to ask them if they're down with Obama. We have to ask some people some things tonight to see what
they're down with Biden.
If
Obama,
they're down with Biden, we got to ask questions. Right. We'll write these down. Benicia. I thought you said this was in Italy. I think there's a little town called Benicia somewhere.
Oh.
This is another one. We're almost done with these, but you know.
We can pay respect to him, okay? As a community. Take a knee! What's your name?
I'm not doing this. There's two guys. He's kind of thinking about it.
Hey, take it, bro. Take it, bro. Sir. Yes, sir.
A moment of silence for George Floyd.
Keep it quiet.
All right. Then we got Big Beaver. This is Big Beaver. Last one, take a knee somewhere, and we're done with this part of take a knee. But watch how the people react in this one.
Come on now. Come on. So y'all stand with us. So y'all stand with us and take a knee.
You know, I thought a lot of people were really stupid, fam. We input the whole thing like, well, how can you be pissed off about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, but you're not pissed off at was it Chavin or Chavin? I can't even say his name. Chauvin. How can you not be pissed about him taking a knee? A lot of people in this country made this knee thing, this kneeling thing, so fucking huge. So when I see police officers doing this, I know it might seem like something simple, and it might not be sincere, you know what I'm saying, for some. But I see a little kink in the armor, which I think the elite's got to start thinking about, because they can see the police starting to turn against what the police department really is, which is the strong arm of the elites and the imperialist fucking arm that it is. Then they have to worry, fam. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking this too big, but this is something I thought was pretty big.
I mean, I think if I see the police like joining the protesters and stopping the arrest of protesters who are peaceful, then I'll be more convinced. But as someone who was arrested for peacefully protesting and doing not even for videoing people peacefully protesting as press, it's very difficult for me to have the same opinion and just think that this is just gonna,
No, I hear you.
Automatically
and we'll
go
get
away.
to that, because there's attack on the fucking press, and this is the disgusting part. These are the parts where I tell people, yeah, you're right about fucking Trump. Him fucking with his whole rhetoric when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Now he's backtracked on his ways and kind of separated them from the protesters. But that initial response he had was fucking terrible. And it's very authoritarian-like from Donald Trump, okay? Because, now I think people are starting to get the whole gist of this thing and starting to report it a little bit more accurately. The looters, they're a little small group of people breaking off. They got nothing to do with the organized. They got nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter wouldn't allow anybody close in their organization who would do any of those types of looting and beating. That's it. As pissed off as they are, as the change we want. We were at these protests. We're like, go the other way. Don't go this way. So I just want to say that. Why don't you tell us, Johnny, you had something to say? I'm sorry.
And then, I don't know, it's kind of like, is there footage of, what they do after? Like, if the protest is still there after curfew, then do they beat them and arrest them? Or, it's like, who knows what happens,
Yeah.
So is it just a symbol? And then Someone said America loves symbols that don't do anything.
We do. That's another thing.
The whole
It's like we
blackout thing?
do. Guys, just for the record, no, I haven't posted a blackout picture on my Instagram.
I fell for it.
It doesn't do anything. That's
Symbolism.
not helping people. Going to these protests and whatever, standing in solidarity with these people, filming everything, changing the mainstream media narrative, going after that narrative that is so fake about, the protesters being violent, going after people like Garcetti, that helps change things. That helps, not like a symbolic gesture. And that's why, like, even though this is good and it makes people feel good and whatever, like, it's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I also think that's people are afraid that this is just going to be enough for people to be like, okay, good, like, and then stop. You don't stop. This is only the beginning. And now with people like Obama trying to co-opt this whole thing, you have to be in there further, because that's what the establishment does. They put you out with symbolic bullshit that people eat up, and then they go and they co-opt the goddamn thing, and then that's it, and they squash everything that people have been working towards.
But let's be honest, Obama, they're up at the top. These are nefarious, sinister son of a bitches. I think there's a lot of good police officers that might end up resigning, like you said, fam, when they get the sense of kneeling with fucking protesters and say, you know what? It's not right for some of what my colleagues do to beat up these innocent people, to beat up these minorities and these people of color who are fucking just, don't deserve it, and they might quit. This to me is a sign of like, hey man, like I said, we need a coalition. Well, we need some people on the police force to get out of there and join us. And not, because here's the thing, as they go along with this, you know what they're thinking ahead? I have to follow orders. You always hear that, I was just following orders. Like, that is going to come into question. At what point do they say, you know what, I'm not following these fucking orders?
What if it was their order to take a knee? Take a knee in front of mainstream media cameras, so then it looks like we're...
I think we would have had some people fucking breaking that news. I mean, I don't know. Once again, I don't think so.
Just how you can make the assumption that, they're doing it for good, they could also be doing it for bad.
Absolutely.
They could also just be doing a performance.
Absolutely.
What's it called?
From a network that's covered Epstein, we believe in anything is possible, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are genuine about it, but I also think that there has been, like, we'll discuss the LA guy and the next day. But
that's why I sent in different multiple take a knees from around the country, because then that would have to be a really fucking dark, deep fucking executive
No, I don't
order
think everybody's like,
we don't know what's to become of it. I do believe some of the police officers just took a knee to make everybody happy, don't give a fuck about it. But you could see there was some people that there was the one, I think the very first one, I didn't even, do we put it in? It might have been taken down. It was the girl in LA. She was was one guy who was like taking a knee, and you can see she was dealing with it. She was trying to think about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, if I take a knee, will you promise to back off and be peaceful? I think she was saying that just to appease her cop friends, and she took a knee. And then she got up. But you can see her questioning herself. Should I do it? What should I, you know what I'm saying? We don't know if it's genuine. We don't know if it is kind of like just done to keep people happy.
I just don't get. I don't understand how they're so afraid of protesters. Like, I haven't seen, like, the most I've seen is a water bottle thrown at them.
I've seen water bottles.
A person that is armed with riot gear, has weapons that could literally kill a human being. Why are you so afraid of a fucking protester with a sign? I just do not understand that.
There's probably thinking the fact that there's so many more of them and not that. I don't, you know what I'm saying? It's, I can see a lot of these cops being fearful of shit going down because they know what their colleagues have done, that they're wrong. And, people have had enough and they're pissed off. And what's the next step? And once again, the mainstream media is fucking spinning things in such a bullshit fucking way. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't know. The judge and jury's out there. I like this. That's why I also wanted to show the protesters stopping people from looting in. I'm trying to see some positive things and some things that are just not being really put out there by the mainstream media.
That's true.
Let's talk about Garcetti's house, because somebody stole my protest because I felt it was my right as an Italian American.
I actually was the one that was going after trying to
the Convo Couch wanted to go and protest Garcetti's house badly. I wanted to yell at the megaphone, call him a greaseball that he is. Garcetti is piece of shit that he is. Imposing these curfews now is just a way to silence the protesters. That's all he's trying to fucking do. He has no right to do this shit.
And he has said he agrees with the law enforcement. This isn't a protest anymore. This is riots. Yeah. He's playing that mainstream media narrative. Johnny, did you have anything you wanted to start with? Or okay, so there was some protests outside his house, a giant one. There was a lot of people there. that showed up. All the people from Hollywood came in and they started just sitting down and protesting in front of his house, and they were shouting, "Why are you, in riot gear?" Which is a big part of that. What are you showing? Oh, that's why.
Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot gear. Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot gear. Why are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot gear. Why are you in riot gear?
To me, it's a very important point. I mean, I understand that they
Whose video
may
was that?
think that it was a tweet. And then we have. Did you want to show the other one you were showing? Okay. All right, and then we have this other video of the Metro bus stopping in solidarity. So this is the street corner right by Garcetti's house, and this Metro bus stopped because there was protesters all the way here, and there was, if you go down the street, that's where his house is. So everybody was marching from the neighborhood out into this side right over here.
All right.
And
pictures from the protest.
Yeah, we just have some more pictures from the protests that just people just lining up with signs. There was nothing absolutely violent about these protests. Everything was pretty peaceful. Peaceful. Did you have some footage? Okay,
They're showing that bus right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, some more from the.
A lot of we saw a video the other day where a bus driver refused to commute prisoners or protesters, so that's why they've become heroes and saying, "Hey, man, they're standing with us." Like that bus driver's like, "I'm getting off and I ain't driving this shit. You drive it. I'm not, I'm not transporting these protesters for your asses."
They're not employed by the police
department. Yeah. So try to use them to transport protesters.
Use
with a
your
big
own
statement by someone.
Use your own freaking methods of transportation.
Gotcha.
And then we had the pictures, Johnny, that we were just talking about.
By the way, when we talk about looting, Ben Riley says looting was a form of protest.
It is.
And so let me get to his tweet real quick because I don't want to lose it. He said, Ben Riley, thank you for the super chat contribution. I heard you got that shirt. In my opinion, cops kneeling a picture of oxygen to a drowning man equals a picture of oxygen to a drowning man. I mean, some people can't take a knee because the cops ran them over during the protest.
I mean, I agree with you, Ben. 100%. I get it.
He also says looting is a form of protest, in my opinion. It shares capital that was stolen from the people and given to Wall Street. As far as I'm concerned, Target owed us. That is true.
So I agree with you. I think people, the BLM people and some other people are doing it because they don't want. Their mission is to end police brutality and the systems of oppression, blah, blah, blah. So what I think that's why they're like differentiating it, which is why I think we need to have a coalition of people who understand that you don't need to apologize necessarily for all the looting. I mean, obviously we don't want to loot small businesses, but I think it is a form of protest. I think, it goes along with getting back what was taken from us. Yeah. So to
On
speak.
Fairfax, did you guys see a lot of private businesses looted?
I didn't see a lot, but I mean, I think there were some.
Some, right,
yeah,
okay.
because most of the stores there are expensive, but some are like independent boutiques and stuff.
Tony watches closely, says, just to let you know, you're all live on ROKFIN as well. We know, Tony. We saw you over there. Thank you so much. And thank you for the super chat contribution. Darren Levy, I know he's out of the States in Europe somewhere. Just following orders was not an excuse at the Nuremberg trials. It certainly wasn't.
Yep.
We know that. They try to do that. The Ben Riley, again, we love you, Ben Riley. Thank you for the super chat contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. The ants pick the food. The ants keep the food. And the grasshoppers leave. Tony, I mean, is that Ben? You're always hitting us with this wizardry. Guys, go on over to our ROKFIN.
And share this because we're live.
Please do so. Anybody new who signs up that we haven't seen on the chat, we'll send you a shirt. Remember that. I got the shirt program. I'm mailing out shirts tomorrow. Okay, so that's Garcetti's house. Oh. And the nearest neighborhood. What's this?
Okay, and we had a couple. This group did you show that the group that got the cops to turn around? So basically while we were there, there were cops behind or in front of these people, and the cop cars turned around. They basically just turned around and went away. Obviously, that we had been told that there would be no arrest according to the officer that was there. But of course, people stayed and protested, and so they turned around, came back, and later on arrested people, reportedly.
Here's that second picture. Warning, cops getting ready to kettle protesters by Irving near Garcetti's house.
Yeah,
you guys know about kettling, right?
Yeah, so this is not at his house. This is near his house. And so that there was, you guys can see the police cars coming up over there. We were leaving as this was happening, and that's just from earlier.
Okay, here's the reports about arrest outside near his house.
So this is a report of arrest being made right outside his house. As you can see, it was dark by then, so we left earlier than that because the police started coming in, and of course we didn't want to get trapped. But the people who stayed out that late, obviously that's way past curfew. Our curfew was 6 yesterday. Most people were still out past it. And there we go. This, I think she's an actress, Jamie King, who was there, was also arrested. There's the picture of CNN where they were getting ready they were confronting the police. At that point, when it's that late and you're there, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get arrested. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, you know what? The problem is, too, is that the press might have not been there, or, they're still under attack left and right. I think that's what we have to talk about next. Now, we talked about you guys getting arrested that day, the way you guys were kettled. You had your press passage on, but after you talked and you explained to them that we had a independent media channel, you have they could have just looked and seen and saw that you guys were press. You had all this stuff. They opened up your bag, thousands of dollars worth of equipment. They seemed to let other press go, but you guys got arrested. Jamie King talked about getting arrested. Where was that press? Let's take a look at some of this stuff. The press, fam, is still under attack. This is something that's disgusting because they're trying to silence the messengers. They're trying to silence the documentation, which is 100% allowed, a free press. It's the fourth branch of government. So let's take a look. This is Mike Levine. He caught some stuff right here. Watch this guy get just bashed in the face by. Oh, my God. So here he is. Boom, he starts smashing. He's got a cameraman. He punches him in the face. Then they start telling him to go. They wave their baton at him as they're leaving. Watch this. Boom. Watch as they're leaving. Does it not go that way? It stops. So they even wave his baton at the guy as they're leaving. Once again, why is that necessary? Why is that allowed? Pepper sprayed the police. Here's another one. You got to put the volume on this. Pepper spray the press.
I'm a member of... Come here. Hey! I'm a member of the press! I'm trying! Hey, I'm a member of the press! Ow! Thank you.
Okay. Once again,
Jesus.
He's screaming, I'm a member of the
They don't
press.
care.
I'm a member of the press. They don't give a fuck. How about in Wisconsin?
Oh, God.
Watch this one. Listen to this one. He's just...
by cops. Innocent people getting killed by cops for years. Peacefully protesting hasn't gotten us anywhere. We've been doing this for so long. I hate that it has to get violent. I hate that shit. I don't want that to happen to these people. I don't want it to happen to these officers who definitely have families back home waiting for them to come home tonight.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's...
Tear gas has just been thrown at us. No, we're fine. We're okay.
Okay, George. Yeah, you need to...
Jeez. He's literally live, and they don't give a
They don't give a shit because there's no repercussions. Rubber bullets. The next one.
Oh, God.
Back to the tear gas. So it seems like that people were very prepared.
She's from a distance. She asked. She was off to the side.
Okay, well, you keep going and go where you gotta go, and that's fine with us.
Okay.
We got plenty of time here.
Are you okay? I'm getting... Katie, are you okay?
Look at he's aiming at them and shooting.
It's okay. It's those pepper bullets. It's those pepper bullets.
Who are they aiming that at?
Now he's shooting at the photographer.
Like directly at us. Directly. Why are they doing that?
He's shooting at our crew.
All right, we got another
Wow.
one.
Obviously, they see the camera.
They don't give a shit. You see them right at the fucking camera. They're pointing. They don't give a damn. BBC. Now this guy is he goes back and forth with this guy.
Wow. They just keep attacking the press because, like he said, there's no repercussions. The ACLU is taking some class action lawsuits in Minnesota, but I haven't seen anything further bigger than Minnesota. But I would recommend checking out the ACLU.
All right, now this one, Johnny, go to the one right below it, the one he puts with the guy in the gas station. Now this is not one of my favorite ones. This is the one that pissed me off the most. Watch what happens here. Start it from the beginning, and you'll hear this guy screaming.
Press! Press!
Sound like you
I'm
guys
press.
the other day.
I am press. Okay, I'm down. I'm down. Okay.
He's holding up his press badge. Watch this.
I am press. Please.
See that? What? Johnny, show it again real quick. He says, I am pressed. Watch what the cop hits him with.
I am press. Please.
Sprays him with fucking pepper spray on the ground.
Impress.
On the ground.
Please.
Like, don't even fucking talk. Minnesota, they just don't care.
I am press. Please.
It's almost like if you say you're pressed, they hate you more.
Yes. Because they don't like they don't want transparency in their fucking acts. We keep them accountable and they don't care. This guy just fucking hosed him and he starts coughing and throwing up.
Pepper spray.
Just
Currently have
terrible.
my head on the ground.
He's sitting there holding his press badge. That's it.
Ugh.
Like, this guy's a threat.
That's why every single time I've turned around, because I don't trust them. They don't care that you are pressed.
Here's even CBS is fair game.
They're sighting us in, dude. Guys.
Jeez, wow.
Like, I mean, they're a no
They're just
threat off
pointing
to the
their
side. They don't
weapon.
even give a shit.
They're pointing their weapons. And that was by a car, too, that they were fucking doing that to the press in the last one, too. By their car. So, Johnny, don't think that the car is even that much.
All right, check out this last one here, too. And he goes after it. This guy.
Stefan was shooting at you.
We're press.
This is press, guys.
We're media.
Stop shooting at us. We're in the middle of a live shot. Stay back here. Get the camera back. Stay by the car. Yeah, okay.
You're gonna get maced. Fine.
Guys, come on. We're doing a job. And this is the Senate press accreditation. So come on.
Roll up on freaking cops, bro.
We're not doing anything.
Oh, you're gonna get arrested. All right, let's go then.
I'm not going to get arrested.
Yes, you are.
For what?
Get in truck now.
Conduct, as you can see in this scene where my cameraman Max Forg and I had this encounter. Just a little bit of context, 3 police cars had actually encircled another TV production team. We don't know from what network, and as we do in the field here, we then rushed there and tried to document this, not to interfere, but document this. And as you saw, nerves were a little bit frazzled there. I can somewhat understand this because those policemen are under a lot of stress doing their job. But of course, they should have let us work and do our job. But, you know, what do you do? We were not about to pick a fight.
That's not true. He was yelling at him. He was looking to pick a fight in the moment of heat, and then he left. But fam, there you go. Across the country, and those are like a couple days old now. I'm sure there's a lot more. And this is something very,
I don't know about
serious.
you, Pasta, but when I'm under a lot of stress, I don't go out and shoot people, especially people doing their jobs. I mean, can we just stop apologizing for the police being under a lot of stress. I get it. We're all under a lot of stress right now. Okay. It's the fucking pandemic. Like, people have no money, no jobs. Like, stop. Like, everybody's under a lot of stress. It doesn't mean you go out and shoot people or especially the press who are out there documenting shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's the law. The fourth branch of government. People are allowed to see what's going on. Transparency is supposed to be very a high-held standard of the United States. We're supposed to be able to see everything and make decisions upon what we feel is right or wrong. And killing the messenger, not letting him document this shit, it's terrible. This is really, really something serious, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not just saying this because we are press, but if they take away our rights to document stuff and show you stuff, then they're going to be able to do whatever they want, because then press won't show up because they know they'll be shot.
Yeah.
This is really,
even if you're not press,
serious.
you guys have the right to document it. Seriously.
Bit, yeah. So is there any super chat contributions before we get on to the next part? Okay, so let's get going here, fam. This is something. Violence is not coming from BLM or Antifa. Now, I will definitely say I don't think it's coming from BLM, but I'm not sold on the Antifa thing. But go ahead, fam.
Yeah.
You talk to me about this. Tell us your take.
Okay, so this is a Pasadena driver who ran through a crowd of protesters over here, was speeding away from a demonstration. So let's look at the video because there it is. That says it a lot better. There it is. No, a crowd of protesters. If you can see, in the beginning, they were all together, and then the driver runs through it. Then the white vigilante group forms in Philadelphia with police approval. This is what is happening. So what I'm seeing, more reports, what we've been reporting, is that the people who are doing some of the looting, the people who are engaging in a lot of violence, have nothing to do with the protests. And this is just another example. This is a white vigilante group marching through Philadelphia, I believe.
Vigilante group?
So you can be a vigilante group if you are making sure, like,
if you're
taking matters into your own hands.
Yeah.
You're basically policing your town, but you're a vigilante because you're not, like the political vigilante, like Graham. So they're over there making sure they're going to be the opposition to the protests because they think the protests are the violent ones. So this is dangerous because it can incite a sort of, kind of civil war, civil unrest,
right,
etc.
And they were all white.
Yeah.
And with the blessing of the Philly police is what the tweet said.
Yes, that's according to the tweet. Okay.
And this next one right here, won't let me pull it up because it's the white nationalist group. It keeps making me, let me try.
Okay, so white nationalist group was posting as Antifa called for violence on Twitter. So a couple days ago, people were saying that Antifa was calling for violence, but it was actually a white nationalist group that was posing as them on Twitter. And there was other misinformation and misleading claims spread across Twitter this Sunday night and into Monday. And this was related via the protests. And this was a Twitter account claiming to be an Antifa organization. The spokesperson said the account violated the company's platform manipulation and spam policy, specifically the creation of fake accounts. Twitter suspended the account after a tweet that incited violence. As protests were taking place in across multiple states on Sunday, the newly created account called Antifa_US tweeted, "Tonight's the night, comrades," with a brown raised fist emoji. And tonight we say F the city and we move into the residential areas, the White Hoods, and we take what's ours. This isn't the first time Twitter has taken action against fake accounts engaged in hateful conduct linked to identity Evropa, according to the spokesperson. The Antifa movement, a network of loosely organized radical groups who use direct action to fight the far right and fascism, has been targeted by President Donald Trump as a force behind some of the violence and property destruction seen at some protests, though little evidence has been provided for such claims. So, I want to say something against this because I have not seen evidence of Antifa being violent.
Mm-hmm.
Like ever, and they have never I remember when Heather Heyer was killed in that protest where the driver ran through people and she was one of the people that got ran down, And I remember when she was murdered, they were blaming Antifa. That was the whole thing, that, oh, Antifa did this, Antifa did that. And they couldn't produce any evidence. But instead, we saw who murdered her, a white nationalist. So I do want to say, I don't believe Antifa is as guilty as people are trying to make it. I think it's dangerous that Donald Trump is calling them pretty much a terrorist organization, because then any one of us who are anti-fascist, because I'm against fascism, obviously. I support the First Amendment, and that's one of the things that is happening right now, is that the people who are who are pro-fascism or don't criticize it are supportive of it. Essentially, Antifa doesn't have, they're like anonymous in a way. They don't have a central sort of government type. They're more anarchist minded, so they believe in loose things. There's no like Antifa sort of thing, and so I think it's dangerous that we promote them as being terrorists, because then any one of us could be terrorists.
Well, let me say this before you read Donald Trump's thing. This is where I'm not 100% in agreement with you. I've never been a fan of Antifa. However, I will say this much as well. And
can I ask why?
Because in the past, some of the methods they use, and I'm not going to go start digging out stuff from years ago. I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? Once again, since it's not an organization, they'll have rogue actors in the form of Antifa thinking they can justify the things they are doing. That is why I don't like the whole mentality behind Antifa. But I will say this much right now when it comes to this particular, what we've witnessed. I have not witnessed a clear, solely attack by any Antifa member in which they are trying to frame certain rogue actors as Antifa without proper evidence. So I will stand with you right there that I don't think I've seen a lot of Antifa. I haven't seen a lot of Antifa attacks and really that I can put on them solely. But that doesn't mean that I am for the Antifa group. Their mentality, once again, not being an organization, leaves loosely to too much on how it's okay for you to fight back in certain ways. And that's why I've never been crazy about Antifa.
Well, but then the other side is when you become a very like central organization, then it also puts the power in like one person, and then it's like everything becomes, so it's kind of like a tough line to walk.
It's tough.
So they released a statement because they were sick of being blamed, obviously, for all these things, and they said this is directly from them. And since they don't have a central website or anything, they posted this on their Facebook, and then they posted, a lot of people started sharing it. So they said, to all media, this is a public statement from Antifa in response to the threats issued by the United States President Donald J. Trump. Dear Mr. Trump, let us be perfectly clear. Antifa is an organization. There's no membership, no meetings, no dues, no rules, no leaders, no structure. It is literally an idea and nothing more. Even the claim of this author to represent Antifa is one made unilaterally for the purpose of this communication and nothing more. There is no governing body, no trademark owner to dispute the author's right to represent Antifa. Antifa is neologism constructed from the contraction of the phrase anti-fascist. The truth is there's no such thing as being anti-fascist. Either you are a decent human being with a conscience or you are a fascist. The ostensible president of the United States has today openly declared that he is a fascist and that he intends to turn the military power of the United States into a fascist tool. Now, there is no question, and we can stop pretending that this man represents anything but the worst in humanity, which his supporters embody, and that is the only effect his words will have. It will likely be no problem from LEO to identify the author of this document, who also has maintained the Antifa page on Facebook since founding it in 2017. The author of this document is unconcerned with that inevitability because neither the author nor this document has been involved in a crime of any sort of way. But since both the president and the media insist on acting as though Antifa is this big, scary organization, the author supposes it's time for Antifa to make a statement. Thus, Antifa supports and defends the right of all people to live free from oppressive abuse of power, whether that power is unjustly derived from wealth, status, or an employer, or a political popularity. Particularly, Antifa defends and supports the right of the oppressed and marginalized people to protest, march, and engage in civil disobedience in pursuit of justice. While it is never our intent to engage in violent or destructive behavior, we cannot and will not take responsibility for telling people how they are allowed to be righteously outraged. We prefer and encourage nonviolent action. We also understand that some people just aren't feeling that nice anymore. Their feelings are entirely justified, and it is neither our role nor our privilege to tell them otherwise. Mass civil disobedience is what happens when people say they're hurting and whoever's hurting them refuses to stop. Stop hurting them, fix your broken systems, get real and meaningful psychological evaluations and background stringent tests to carry pepper spray that any police department in the U.S. or the U.S. military have in place. As a direct and possibly deliberate consequence, our military and our paramilitary personnel simply cannot be assumed to be fighting in the interests of the people of this country. We've all seen the photos. The destruction and burning and looting is largely the behavior of outsiders, white people taking advantage of the situation, both to enrich themselves by looting under cover of the protests and to provide excuses for uncontrolled fascist elements within our military and police forces as plausible cover for killing more Black, brown, and poor people without fear or sanction. The so-called accelerationists who have committed to ensuring that any time a marginalized community stands up and demands justice, construct a narrative of criminality and destruction that white bigots and affluent oligarchs who benefit from our broken system to validate their bigotry and injustice retroactively. They are successful in this for two reasons: because people like you are easily manipulated in your banal, self-serving ignorance, and because people like you are more than happy to passively aggressively reap the benefits of pretending to believe that destruction is the act of the oppressed. This game has gone on for decades on an endless loop since the very dawn of the civil rights era, and we the people are saying no more. And that President Trump is your solution. No more. Get the dirt out of your law enforcement and your military. Get the dirt out of your government administration. Ideally resign now and take your VP and your cabinet with you. Nancy Pelosi isn't a great deal of improvement, but she'll only be president for a few months. You can arrest 100 million of us, sir. You would be well advised not to try. If you think that targeting and making an example of the author of this document will get you anywhere, you may rest assured that this author is far more than prepared to allow the real name to be used as a rallying cry for justice and civil disobedience from coast to coast. It is time for you and everyone who thinks like you to understand that whether black, red, brown, white, or any other color, Americans are done living in a nation of empty platitudes or broken promises. Traditionally, this top of document is accompanied by a list of demands. Here are demands: universal single-payer health care without regard for citizenship status, universal basic income with a federal jobs guarantee, under which the federal government belongs the employer of last resort. Involuntary unemployment is a function of profiteering by fascist capitalist oligarchs who are willing to sacrifice the lives of others for their own enrichment. It must end. The abolition of the right to work laws, which do exactly the opposite of ensuring anyone's right to work. Publicly funded higher education, robust and effective social welfare programs to include child care education, employment training and counseling, parenting skills training, and life skills training, including fiscal education. A requirement that function in media, political, and economic literacy to be demonstrated to graduate high school. The creation of a publicly funded nonpartisan media source to serve as a primary source of government coalition or well-known billing communicators, political scientists, and other experts in propaganda to strip all bias from official information before it's broadcast. Federal charges of treason filed against anyone willfully and knowingly attempting to minimize public perception of the impact and risks of the coronavirus. Reform of whistleblower laws to ensure they have teeth, and particularly to ensure that a whistleblower acting in good faith is not identified to the public ever. In the end, Mr. President, the simple reality is that Antifa isn't a thing. You can't find it. You can't end it. You can't arrest it. And you can't silence it, nor in any decent nation would the attempt ever even be made. Antifa means anti-fascism. The only position that opposes is fascism. In the end, there's no organization that you can declare terrorists. You, sir, and yours are the terrorists, and your victims are done putting up with it. America is not, in spite of having openly admitted fascists as president, a fascist nation. We've had wars about this. The fascists are 0-2. Please, Mr. President, let's not try to make this 0-3, because it will never, ever be 1-2, and none of us wants to see the death toll from your attempt to make it so. Currently, media and other actors wishing to contact the author may do so through the page. Should Mr. Zuckerberg, who has displayed plenty of authoritarian fascist tendencies himself, decide not to host that page any longer, this document will be updated. So, that was their statement. It was a long statement, obviously, but
it wasn't their statement. It was a statement from an author. Organization.
Exactly.
But that's in right there. It's like,
but it's like, just like Anonymous, it's so hard to pinpoint what's true and what isn't from these organizations, because in an effort to be very not centralized so they can't be found, it's also like definitely hard to pinpoint what they say. I mean, I agree with a lot of what they say. I also think, like, you know, it would have been nice to hear like more about the whole system of oppression. Obviously, Trump is a symptom of the problem. I think they know that. But I mean, obviously, this was directed at Trump more because Trump is the one that called them a terrorist organization. So whatever the case may be, I tend to agree with a lot of what they say. I thought their list of demands was decent. I would have added a couple more things in there, but I thought it was pretty decent. Now, Dr. Cornel West.
Yes, this is the Antifa shining moment, I think.
Thanked Antifa.
Yes. I remember this, too, watching this live. This was at the Charlottesville protest, whatnot, and they were pretty much, the cops just abandoned them, and it was only Antifa there to save them.
You had a number of the courageous students of all colors at the University of Virginia who were protesting against the neo-fascists themselves. the neo-fascists had their own ammunition. And this is very important to keep in mind because the police, for the most part, pulled back. The next day, for example, although the 20 of us who were standing, many of them clergy, we would have been crushed like cockroaches if it were not for the anarchists and the anti-fascists who approached over 350 anti-fascists. We just had 20, and we singing This Little Light of Mine. You know what I mean? So that
Antifa meaning anti-fascist.
The anti-fascists, and the crucial role of the anarchists, because they saved our lives, actually. We would have been completely crushed, and I'll never forget that. Meaning what? Meaning that you had the police holding back on the one hand. So we couldn't even get arrested. We were there to get arrested. We couldn't get arrested because the police had pulled back and just allowing fellow citizens to go at each other, you see. And with all of the consequences that would follow therefrom. So in that sense, you know, I think what we're really seeing, though, Sister Amy, is the American empire in decay with the rule of big money, with massive militarism, facilitated by the scapegoating of the most vulnerable of immigrants, Muslims, Jews, Arabs, gay, lesbians, trans, and bisexuals, and black folk. The white supremacy was so intense. I'd never seen that kind of hatred in my life. We stood there, and 9 units went by and looking right in our eyes, and they cussing me out and so forth and so on. And they lucky I didn't lose my Holy Ghost, to tell you the truth, because I wanted to start swinging myself. I'm a Christian, but not a pacifist, you know. But I held back. But that kind of hatred, but that is just the theater. It's big money, it's big military, and the way in which this capitalist civilization is leading us toward unbelievable darkness and bleakness. And the beautiful thing is to fight back. It was a beautiful thing to see all the people coming back, but they had more fascists than anarchists.
This is why I love Dr. Cornel West, because even though he's talking about what happened, he brings it back to the big point, which is this is capitalist oligarchy, this is a system, this is a military-industrial complex. I mean, he's talking about how this leads to the theater that he mentioned, which is these people. And my experience, every time I've been to a protest that has been against, when it was pro-immigration, when it was like against white nationalism, I have seen the police be extremely protective of those people and not be protective of the protesters. And now I'm seeing the police be the opposite. And so obviously, to me, my experience is a lot less positive about the police than a person who has never experienced that. And I'm telling you, to going to a protest and seeing how the police have been treating the protesters and have been treating the media really completely changes. It makes this deeper than just seeing it on TV. Yep. And you know, and it just really, to me, it juxtaposes exactly how I saw the treatment of us versus how I saw the treatment of people, the Ku Klux Klan members when I went to protest for immigration. In hoods, and how the police were protecting them, and they said, well, they have permits. Yeah, we had permits this time too. People had permits. It doesn't matter. It's an excuse.
By the way, that girl says, I agree with Fee. If they want to prove they care, quit. That girl says quit. Thank you for that super chat contribution. It's always appreciated on the couch. Ben Riley says, screw that. My mom's a nurse and BC survivor. What does that mean? Thank you. And GF, breast cancer. I'm sorry, you can't hear you. Screw that. My mom's a nurse and a breast cancer survivor. And GF,
girlfriend,
is now an MA.
An MA?
GF is an MA. Fam, you're a certified TV doctor. You should know that. Medical assistant. Now, God, Sandra Oh would be so pissed at you. Now, that's what I call a tough job. I may be just a programmer, but cops aren't special. I agree with you. Nurses,
I love programmers,
they're doing the hard jobs. Medical assistants, they're doing the hard job. I used to say as a waiter or as a restaurant manager, we mess up, somebody doesn't get their Diet Coke.
Yeah.
You mess up, somebody could die. It's serious.
Yeah, that's why, House, Grey's Anatomy.
Here's Pleb. Pleb, thank you the other day. You were beautiful. Thank you, that girl. That was really something special. We do really appreciate it on the couch. Seattle officer Greg Anderson suspended. By the end of the month, everything he warned came true. What he warned us of?
I don't know about that. I think he was an officer that got suspended for doing the right thing, but
Probably.
I'm not sure.
I love that lady in Fort Lauderdale coming through and grabbing that white dude, that black lady. Get your ass back there. What the hell you? That's only in Florida. Shit. Ben Riley says, beware of the commercialization of the progressive movements. You better believe it. They're trying to co-opt it like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Let's show this last video, and I want to give my opinion about Antifa really quick, whatnot, after we take a look at this. There's that one last video.
Okay, so this is the DC. Which one are we here? The DC police officer was imitating Antifa to protests.
Yeah.
Nope. Let's see. Weird. Okay. All right. Well, you can go ahead and...
Here's my opinion about Antifa, whatnot. As we see that it's no centralized group, it's kind of an ideology just taking hold. However, you know what I'm saying, like Black Lives Matter, like when Martin Luther King had his movements, it was known. There were rules. There's peace only. That's what you promote. And I love everything that Arthur had to say and what he, except for the part where he said that Nancy Pelosi can only take over for a couple months. I'm not letting that happen. She doesn't go nowhere near the White House, even for a day. Beside the point, what they said was a lot true. But when you leave it that open to interpretation, some people will use tactics that you might not necessarily agree with and really kind of slander the name and the ideology of Antifa. Now, what you read today was very important for people to know because that pretty much explained it. There is no central organization. We don't send people out to do certain shit. We can't be an organization called a terrorized organization. We're an ideology taking place.
Yeah.
However, the problem is that some people have taken their own tactics and kind of made them in the name of Antifa. But once again, Antifa is kind of separating themselves right now. So I do, after this show, have a little bit of a different opinion about Antifa or people who consider themselves part of Antifa. But that in itself lies the problem, too, I think, as well.
Yeah.
When you don't have an organization, people are going to smear your ideology in the name of their tactics, and that's bad.
Yeah.
So
they did it to Anonymous, too. There was actually a Twitter made by an account that was anonymous, and they're not the real Anonymous. So I get, but Anonymous is just like Antifa, where you don't know who they are. They're like a loose group of people.
We got to speak
like
to
they
Natalie
don't have
Portman.
anything.
We got to ask her.
Fam.
Shouldn't we speak to Natalie Portman? Say, who's the real Anonymous?
Okay, so.
Oh, he's got the video working.
You got it? Okay. There was, but. Okay, well, whatever. We'll move on from that one. But they were sending basically police officers dressed like Antifa people. This is, again, just we've seen it time and time again.
We've seen imposters, like not part of the movement, not part of protesters, cause a lot of damage, cause a lot of ruckus. Therefore, they can justify hitting the protesters with rubber bullets. They can justify spending all that money. Remember right now, once the police department spends all this money and everything they use, all their equipment, they got to get reloaded for more money. In fact, in Garcetti's house, they were using the people's budget to kind of go after him, showing that they give all this money to the Los Angeles Police Department and nothing for education, for social programs, for homeless people, whatnot.
They cut that and they increased the police.
Exactly. So that is, once again, how do you justify getting more money and how do you justify your actions? Kind of impersonate the people that you want the mainstream media to put out as the enemy. And that's Antifa. That's all these other groups. And like I said, in this particular situation, I haven't seen a lot of evidence of Antifa doing anything or anybody in the name of Antifa. We might have thought that, and that's what the mainstream media can portray because it's a white guy with a black mask and half the time I'm thinking it is the cops.
Yeah, exactly. So. And just to finish up the show, Anonymous had a call. They recently released a video, and they haven't released a video in a while, and it was calling out the Minnesota police. So let's just hear what they said.
Greetings, citizens of the United States. This is a message from Anonymous to the Minneapolis Police Department. Police brutality and murder is a widespread problem in the United States, which has undoubtedly infected nearly every jurisdiction in the country, but the Minneapolis Police Department is among the worst, and has a horrific track record of violence and corruption. This week's brutal killing of George Floyd, which has sparked protests and national outrage, is merely the tip of the iceberg in a long list of high-profile cases of wrongful death at the hands of officers in your state. In fact, in the past 2 decades, 193 people have been killed by police in Minnesota. In recent years, we have seen numerous high-profile killings in the area, including the deaths of Jamar Clark, Philando Castile, Justine Damond, Thurman Blevins, and Brian Quinones. These are only the cases to catch headlines, where videos or other evidence proves that the police are lying. Sadly, in the vast majority of police killings, the only one left alive to tell the story is the officer who took the person's life, and thus the cycle is able to continue because none of these murderers ever face any justice for their actions. This travesty has gone on for far too long, and now the people have had enough. In the most recent case of George Floyd, the blatant disregard for human life exhibited by the officers is undeniable, and all evidence that has been released so far has shown that Floyd was being entirely compliant with the officers, which contradict earlier claims from police that he was resisting arrest. Furthermore, our initial investigation of the offending officers has revealed a criminal pattern of violence on the job. At least 2 of the officers involved in Floyd's arrest, Derek Chauvin and Tio Thao, have a history of on-the-job shootings and excessive force complaints. The Star Tribune reported this week that Chauvin, the officer most directly responsible for Floyd's death, has been involved in numerous on-the-job shootings where suspects were killed. There were 4 officers on the scene at the time of the incident, 1 who kept the gathering crowds away, and 3 who were forcefully holding Floyd down. Onlookers warned the officer that he was crushing the man to death, but none of the police on the scene seemed to have any concern for Floyd's condition. You may have fired these officers to save face, but it is obvious that this type of behavior is condoned, if not encouraged within your police department, as it is in others. Officers who kill people and commit other crimes need to be held accountable just like the rest of us, otherwise, they will believe that they have a license to do whatever they want. You will claim that this is just the work of a few bad apples, but what of the officers who stand by and do nothing while they commit offenses against the people they encounter, and the police departments like yours who refuse to prosecute these criminals as they would one of the citizens that they are sworn to protect? People have had enough of this corruption and violence from an organization that promises to keep them safe. After the events of the past few years, many people are now beginning to learn that you are not here to save us, but rather, you are here to oppress us and carry out the will of the criminal ruling class. You are here to keep order for the people in control, not to provide safety for the people who are being controlled. In fact, you are the very mechanism that elites use to continue their global system of oppression, and the world is finally starting to wake up to this, and they are becoming increasingly angry every time they see blood needlessly spilled without consequence. These officers must face criminal charges, and Officer Chauvin especially should face murder charges. Unfortunately, we do not trust your corrupt organization to carry out justice, so we will be exposing your many crimes to the world. We are Legion. Expect us.
There you have it. Natalie Portman approved. She says it's the real deal. Thank you for everybody on ROKFIN, by the way.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. That concludes our show. We're going to see what's up out there, and we will report back.
Yeah, and if you haven't signed up for our ROKFIN, ROKFIN, Ben Raleigh, again, coming in. A building as a symbol, as the act of destroying it. V. For Vendetta.
Should I wear my Guy Fawkes mask when I go?
Remember.
Pasta likes that movie.
I like that movie a lot. The second time was so much better. The second time watching the second Matrix, it was awful. The second time watching V Vendetta, it was
But Cornel
great.
West was in it.
Yes, he was. And Cornel West is one of the only people I think out there. And I talk about we're looking for the next Fred Hampton. I think that's either Cornel West or Reverend Barber. And I would hope that either one of those 2 gentlemen would really pick up the mantle and lead, because they're great and a lot of people will follow them. And we need a leader like this, because that's what I think we're lacking right now.
Yep.
Thank you all for left the Super Chat contributions. Remember to go over to the ROKFIN, ROKFIN. Those Super Chat contributions will help go towards Johnny and Fiorella's bail when they get arrested again. And for Pasta's pasta making. So for Pasta Jardula.
And Fiorella.
Johnny Sue on the 1s and 2s.
Why does a white man think he's not going to get arrested?
I'm Italian.
Combo out, ma'am.